Good. So let's start thinking and talking about what storyboards are. I mean, there are some misconceptions about storyboards going on these days. But let's see what they are like originally and how to create them for videos and animation and film purposes. So if I go to here and let's take storyboard, let's have Disney storyboard. And see what it gives us. Here's what I was looking for. This is what storyboards used to look like originally at the Disney studios, where they were open image, new tab. Here we go. So these were the original storyboards. Well, these images have been taped on paper, but they were also very often taped on big boards where the animation team of a Disney short would put their own sequences together on a big board, and then they would have sessions where every storyboard artist or animator would take their space on the stage and tell what their story was all about. So there's not much like explanation here, because the explanations were provided by the storyboard artist. And then the rest of the team would comment, and they would have this kind of common a way to do the commenting. So they would never criticize negatively, but always positively. I mean, you all know what dissing means, I hope, but plussing is its opposite. So plussing means that you do give comments on the other person's work, but you do it so that you give your own suggestions of how to do something better. So I repeat, the plussing is giving like concrete suggestions of how a scene could be made better and how it could be more fun, how it could be more cinematic, how the storytelling could be more effective. And as they did this kind of throwing out ideas to each other, these Disney artists, they made these short animated films like into real jewels in the end. So watch any like Donald Duck cartoon or old Mickey Mouse cartoon. They are like filled with jokes and fun and fun ways of like fun visual ways of telling the story. And that's the result of plussing. Okay, so storyboard originally was a big board where the story was pinned, and that's why it was called storyboard. And that the tradition started in the 1930s and 40s in Disney studios. At the same time, by the way, in Russia, or in the Soviet Union, as it was called then, a filmmaker called Sergei Eisenstein had invented storyboarding independently from Disney. So, okay, let's see, Wikipedia and Sergei Eisenstein. And no, it's not pronounced Eisenstein. I've been told that it should be pronounced Eisenstein because it's a Russian name. So I'm not mispronouncing, I hope. Okay, so here he is, interesting hair. He had interesting hair already when he was 2, I see. Anyway, he was one of the best filmmakers in the world that day, and probably still is. And at some point, he got to go to Disney Studios, as you can see, already in 1930. And when they were comparing the ways of how they made films, they noticed that in both the Eisenstein Studios and the Disney Studios, they were making storyboards, and they had come up with it independently, it seems. Yeah, so maybe they also learned from each other, those 2 studios, I mean. Anyway, Eisenstein's films are really good at editing and saying things just with images and their successions. And that's what I'm actually saying here, that storyboarding is about cinematic storytelling. You have to think cinematically. You have to know, you have to think about camera moves, for instance. Here you can see that there is probably a zoom in meant here, or maybe a cut from, probably not a cut, probably a zoom in, that you start from here and then you zoom in a little bit. This is quite typical of how to show it. Then we show the mouse putting its clothes on, and then we see how the camera is panning from left to right. So this kind of move that goes straight from side to side, it's called a pan. Then we have something called a tilt, which is usually not used in animation. So in a tilt, the camera, I think I need to use something over here now. A camera will move like this. I don't know if you can see it. And with the perspective is changing with a tilt, and that's why it's not so good with drawn animation. Of course, with 3D animation, you can do as many tilts as you want. But anyway, let's get on. What else should we know about storyboarding before we start storyboarding? We should know about, yes, camera movement is one. Then we should know the image sizes in, let's see if I can find it, image. Oh yes, here is what I was looking for. So if you have done any photography course, you might have come across these. Extreme long shot, medium long shot, and so on. Okay, let's open this image also in a new tab. This stuff. And you need to know how to use them when you edit. So yes, we have the extreme close-up, where you can, it's not necessarily just an eye, but for instance, if you're a typical scene would be that you're showing a small object to somebody else, or your character is showing, let's say it's a ring, and then you need to, in order to show that ring, then you show it in an extreme close-up. So basically, movie language is easy. You show close-up the things that matter at the moment. And if it matters to see your character's, let's say, emotional reaction to something, then you use a close-up or a big close-up. If you need to show some action, then you use like a medium close-up, or better yet, a mid-shot or a medium long shot, or especially if you have several characters. By the way, one character in the scene could be in a mid-shot and the other could be in a medium long shot, or you could have one in close-up and one in the long shot. So when you have several characters in the scene, it's better to have them not just by side, but have them like, well, in different places. That said, in movies, it's usually a good idea to think about that you have a background. Like here in this extreme long shot, you see that, okay, here is the far background. Also, if you, I mean, in animation, it's often that you have several layers of graphics, and one of them is the background layer. So here you have a background over here. Then you would have like a midground, like here you have the background, whatever this here is, and then the character is in the midground. Here, this character would also be in the midground. And then you would also have something in the foreground. Especially in animation, you often want to have something in the foreground to make the illusion of like a three-dimensional space. That the foreground thing could be like some branches of a bush or something else, or some framing device like a door frame or a lamp or whatever. I think you've seen these kinds of shots. Yeah. And then how to edit between these shots, that's also something you would like to, you usually need in storyboarding, not always. But for instance, if you have two shot sizes that are very close to each other, then if you edit between them, if you cut between them, it will look stupid somehow. So it's better to cut from a mid shot to a close-up, for instance, or from a long shot to a mid shot. And again, if you edit it from an extreme long shot where you can hardly see the character, and then you have an extreme close-up that is supposed to be the character's eye, then that will look stupid as well. So the edits should not be too close in image sizes, but also not too far from each other. But of course, as all rules, these rules can be broken if you know what you're doing and if you're using it like creatively. And yeah, something that I understood fairly late in my studies was that the horizon should usually be horizontal. It sounds stupid, but yeah, I didn't take that as a given. I never thought that the horizon should be like horizontal in the image. And that made my photos look very peculiar in a sense, but just, yeah, maybe there was some charm into them. Now I use it when, like, knowingly as an effect. Anyway, you can use it's called a Dutch shot, I think, where you purposely tilt the horizon, or maybe you even use the camera so it keeps tilting. So when your character is drunk, for instance, or something. That's a Dutch shot. And of course, you can use these methods also in comics, and they are used. However, storyboards are not comics. And let's get into that. Why are storyboards not comics, and how do they differ? I mean, let's see, comics, storyboards. Let's take storyboards again. Disney. In older Disney storyboards, there's comic book-like effects, I have to say. You might have like these. Oh yeah, here's a good example. Here where the mermaids are teasing or bullying Wendy. In the original Peter Pan, everybody's bullying Wendy for some reason. Okay, why didn't it open? Open image in new tab. Where is it? There. Okay. So here you have these comic book-like lines for movement. In modern storyboarding, this kind of marking is not used anymore. Instead, the arrows are used. Also here, there might be, for modern storyboarding, there might be too much action in one image. Like if this was made in directly into animation, then the animator wouldn't know how this action would go. Like they wouldn't know which of these mermaids would be pulling her skirt first, and which one, when would this mermaid be pushing, or so the storyboard would be more accurate in that. And there's a reason why storyboards are fairly accurate, or fairly more accurate these days than in the 1940s, is that often animation productions are made in several countries, and maybe the storyboards are made in Finland, and then the animation is made, let's say, in Vietnam, or maybe South Korea, and then the animators might not be in direct contact with the storyboard artists, so they need to know pretty accurately what they are supposed to do. So in a way, the storyboard is the blueprint for the animation, and there are a couple of steps between storyboard and the animation, and those are, like, for instance, the animatic and the layouting, but that's something we are going to talk more about in the animation minor, like next fall. But no, now you know this at least. Okay, so though instead of these action lines, we use arrows, and the storyboards are a bit more accurate or detailed than these old ones. Also, usually a storyboard has a like side bar for telling what the action is actually, and what the characters are saying. Okay, here's, by the way, a nice old picture of Walt Disney looking at the storyboard of Pinocchio. Let's see. Nice. Yeah, many of the old Disney classics are very scary also, like Pinocchio, for instance. Like the fun fair where the boys become donkeys. That's horror. Okay, let's see if we can find any nice storyboard templates. I'm Googling this up also because there is a danger with these templates. You might easily find templates that have the wrong image format, like here, for instance. This one, does it have 16:9 format or not? Well, maybe, yeah. But I've seen, well, here, this is certainly not 16:9, but so you have to see that the image format is good enough for you, or the one that you're using, and not 3:4, for instance. And also, I would prefer like a template where there is space for the markings. Usually I make my template myself, actually. So here is one that I use often, or this kind of template. But yeah, you can make a template like this really quickly in Photoshop as well. So, but here you can see that storyboards these days, they can be like vertical, or they can be horizontal, whatever you like. They can have only 2 images per page, or they can have 6 or 9. So whatever goes into your workflow would be good.
Looking at the Studio Ghibli ones, and you have the vertical.
Mm-hmm.
It's really
okay. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so like yeah, I use
book.
Oh, you mean this? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they make, I don't think they are originally books. They have just like printed and bound them. Because, well, you have hundreds of animators for a film like that, and you need to they need to share the same storyboard, so it makes sense to print it for everybody. Yeah, well, Hayao Miyazaki's storyboards are like artworks in themselves, but usually, but they are also very clear, that the animators can always like read them. So they are not just art; they are also the like very clear blueprint in what's going to happen in the story. So here, let's see. The resolution is crappy, but yeah, as you can see, there's like clear markings whenever you have a camera move, for instance. So, or here. So don't let the format, the template, prevent you from thinking up camera moves. You have to use it for your like purposes. And usually storyboards are drawn many times over, and they are also marked very clearly. Like here you see that here this is marked scene 2, where there's this camera move. And so they are actually not scenes, but takes. So to be more accurate. And whenever the background changes, you have a new take. And you need to number it or mark it. So even in a small team, if you have like 5 people in your animation studio, then everybody needs to know which take they are animating, of course. And if you're an animation producer or a line producer, then you need to know who is doing which take and who has done which take. So you have this kind of Gantt chart where everybody marks which scenes they are taking weekly and which takes and which they have already done. I'm saying this because there are jobs as line producers in the animation industry in Finland and elsewhere. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, yeah, there might be a market for that for you. Okay, so I've been talking a lot. Any comments at this point or questions before we move on? So remember to mark all the takes and all the scenes clearly, and also mark the camera moves. So let's go into into Photoshop and give a few pointers there for storyboarding. In the meantime, as Photoshop is firing up, so why storyboards are done is because animation costs a lot usually, and often it's also good for for movies with actors that you storyboard them at least somehow beforehand, because that will then lessen the actual production costs if you already know how to put your actors in the scene. And you typically test it by doing an animatic, where you scan the images and then put them in a program like After Effects and time them accurately, and also you can make the camera move in After Effects, as you know, so you get that. So you can check if the edits are working and if the rhythm is okay. That's the and then if it isn't, then you go back to storyboards and do new storyboards and then new animatics, and that will cost a lot less than doing animation and then having to do it again. So it lowers production costs. And
hi, I'm Anna McNaught.
Yeah,
let me show you how to.
I don't care about you. Weird. Okay, what was I saying? Yeah. So storyboards are typically iterated many times, and it's like a testing phase. And maybe you have heard of this wonderful movie called Flow, was it? Which won the Oscar for Best Animation this year? This one? And I think we're getting it to finish movie theaters at the end of this month. I read it somewhere. Anyway, yeah, it was made, the trailer alone is like really great. And it's interesting for storyboarding purposes because it was storyboarded in 3D in Blender. So that was something I wanted to mention. You can do your storyboards in 3D as well, or you can use 3D assets for them. I mean, in Blender, it's fairly easy to move the camera too. And if you have your like basic characters as like non-moving assets that you can just put going around. I think the Lord of the Rings movies, they use some 3D storyboarding in those as well. Yeah, they did. So they were very much like before their times, and and all the whole movies were storyboarded and made it into animatics beforehand, and that shows in them. I still think that the robot movie was worth an Oscar, but yeah, I haven't seen Flow yet. Okay, so 3D storyboarding is possible as well. Yeah, the Photoshop is open now. There we go. And I think, yeah, this HDTV template is not enough for me. I need to have like a print A4. Yeah. So what I wanted to show you at this point was like typical mistakes that people do, and also like the basics of editing. Okay, my brush is ridiculously big, and what's it doing now? Yes, nice. And since I'm doing this with my left hand and the tablet is very small and made for right-handed people or set for right-handed people, now there's a bit of fiddling around. Okay, there we go. And I think normal brush and black. Too big. Okay. What is this brush? Happy HB, charcoal pencil. Yeah, let's take the happy HP and HB and hope for the best. Yes, this is good. So a storyboard can be really loose, at least in the first phases. Usually people do these like thumbnails first before they do like final storyboard. In the Toni Pantoja videos, there's some nice explanation of thumbnailing. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. Watch the video instead. So here I'm letting, yeah, I could do this with the, like these cleaner tools, but now I wanted to do rough stuff. So here I could then number my takes and scenes, and typically I would write here like what the thing is about, and so on. And if I had, let's say, a camera move, let's say it would go from right to left. Let's make it a bit bigger. Then I would typically mark it with this sort of dotted line. And maybe to make it really clear, I would also put an arrow here. And maybe I would even write pan right. Gesundheit. So the same goes if I have like a camera move, let's say from here to here. Let's say it goes like this. So whatever seems like really clear to the one that is looking at the storyboard, and also to you after a couple of weeks have passed by, that you remember what to do. What else? What else would I mark? Of course, zoom ins and zoom outs. Although in animation, zoom ins and zoom outs are not used very much. There are traditional reasons for that, because if you, or actually it's called a dolly. A zoom in you make with a camera lens, but a dolly you make when you actually go with the camera closer to the subject, because it looks different in perspective, those two things, if you do it with a lens or by moving the camera. Anyway, doing those things are not used much in animation, because in 2D animation you often have those, you have outlines in, and then the outlines will look thicker, or you have to draw them again. Or if you, well, maybe if you have vector images or vector characters with no outlines at all, then you might get around that problem. But very big zoom ins and zoom outs are usually a mark of an amateur. But you can have small zoom ins and zoom outs, of course, or dollies actually. Okay, other things about movement, like let's say you want to depict or you want to cut from one moving character to another moving character, or maybe the same character moving different in a different place. So let's have that character here. So let's say she's moving from the mid view to the like, or mid ground to the foreground. And I can't really draw while I'm talking, so there we go. So I would mark her the direction that she's moving, first of all with an arrow, like this. So not with any like comic like lines. So this would be, let's say, oops. Okay, this would be like 1A, for instance, like as a take or shot, and then 1B would be when she's here in the foreground. Get it? So now we know that, hey, she moved from here to here. And because the background is not changing, so background photo, it's still the same take or shot. Okay, so what if you want to have like her moving out of the picture, and then there's something, some other guy maybe coming the other way. So that's not going to work. So if you want to cut from movement to movement, the movement should be from the same angle or from the same direction. So cutting. Let's have another layer. Cutting from this kind of movement directly to, let's say, this guy running. This is not going to work. There's going to be like a it's not going to cut as it should be cut. So you need to have the movement from, or you need to either stop the movement here and then get into another movement. So let's have a like big red thing over here. You can't do this. So from a movement that goes to the right to other movement that goes to the right, or vice versa, or movement that goes from foreground to background, and so on. So don't cross-cut the movement. It will look bad. So any one of you who have had any like lessons in film making know these things, but those of you who don't, they don't know it. Okay, talking of weird cutting, do you know the 180 degrees rule? But I think not everybody knows, so maybe I'll show. Yeah, the 180 degrees rule. Ting. Okay, there are also videos, of course, for the 180 degrees rule, but so this is it basically. Open image, new tab. Like this. So basically you have this holy line which can't be crossed if you have two characters talking to each other. So the thing is that it will make like the viewers dizzy of thinking like, okay, this guy was on the right and now suddenly he's on the left. Like what has happened? What's that sound? There's this big sound somewhere. Where is it coming from? Could be. No, I mean this.
It's coming through there.
Okay, right. Anyway, so read about this rule, watch the videos. You'll get very quickly what it's about. It's very easy once you learn it. I'm just reminding you that it's important also in storyboarding. In comics, not so much, by the way. It's nice to know, but yeah, many people don't really think about it. Then let's get into the most common mistakes. So I'll stop sharing, and I'm done pretty soon, by the way. But the most common mistakes that I've seen and that I've made also when I was starting with storyboards, everybody does these, but and I will see some of them done by you, but one can hope that warning about them makes you more aware. So one typical beginner's mistake is to have a static camera, that the camera never moves anywhere. Another one is to have like characters seen only from the front or from the side, but no, or that you have, when you have two characters, you only see them like from the side, and the camera never moves away. Like if I'm showing it here on the screen now, let's change the view into speaker. Okay, and for some reason it's Chawan who's got the hello host video order. No, that's not working. Multi-speaker. Okay, let's keep it like this. Anyway, so basically you would see me in a storyboard just from the front or from the side, but from no other view. Okay, that's a rookie mistake. This is not dependent on drawing skills necessarily. Then another common mistake is to have the camera 5 meters up in the air or at the ceiling. I don't know why people are doing this. I did this also in my first storyboard, and I still don't know why. It's somehow, maybe it's our unconscious mind's eye that we see things from like 5 meters. So keep the camera as low as possible. Brad Bird, who has made quite a many Pixar movies and other movies, his storyboarding advice was to put the camera as low as possible, always like always lower, on the like ground if possible. I mean, if you have your camera on the ground, then you will get very like cinematic shots, at least, or dramatic shots. Okay, so don't put the camera too high. Then another common mistake that is having too much happening all at once, that you don't know as an animator which thing is happening first and which thing is happening then, like the mermaid sequence that I showed in Peter Pan. So you have to show what is happening at what point, and rather use more pictures than put any numbers there in your picture, like 1, first this happens, 2, then this happens. Have it in as pictures rather. Then one, like maybe the opposite, but somehow related, is leaving scenes or takes out. Like you have a scene that's where you have, let's say, an animal, a dog, and then a human being, and then it says in the like text that the dog says all kinds of things, and then it turns into a mermaid. but you don't actually see it. You should just see the result that, hey, now the dog is a mermaid. But a storyboard should be a visualization. Yeah, now we have chorus music in the background. Heavenly chorus. That said, if there is some like specific audio and that's left out, that's not explained, like maybe a heavenly chorus, then that's also weird. Okay. Also, a common mistake is to leave the numbering and explanations out, or have the wrong image format, simply. I think I said that already. Or no cinematic thinking whatsoever. And the edits are all over the place and so on, or lots of zooms. I think I said that too. Right. So I think those were my main points here. Any questions or comments? I don't know if you can hear the heavenly chorus on Zoom. It's quite clear here. Okay, so I think you want to start ideating. Okay, Dina, you have a question, so maybe you can like say it aloud. It was about the
in the morning when you were explaining the main task, like the rules of the competition said that you need to draw at least 3 episodes, and for one episode it needs like 40 panels. So does that mean that we will actually need to draw at least 120 panels of comic for the main task?
No. Let me stop the recording here.